Exercise 7A-3. We're going to calculate the employer portion of the payroll taxes. So, from the following information, calculate the payroll tax expense for caterer company for the payroll of April 9th. So we can click here on this table. Looks like we have 3 employees here. The wages that they have earned prior to this payroll, and then this week's pay. So the FICA Social Security tax rate is 6.2% on the first 142,800 earned, and the FICA Medicare is 1.45% on all earnings. Federal unemployment tax is 0.6% on the first 7,000 earned by each employee. The SUTA rate for the caterer company is 5.7% on the first 7,000 of the employee earnings for the state. And of course, since we're working with currency, round to the nearest cent as needed. So what are the employer payroll taxes? Again, remember this problem is only doing the employer payroll taxes. So the taxes are, we have Medicare, Social Security, and FUTA and SUTA. Now what they should have done is they should have given us a column for taxable earnings for FUTA and SUTA, because remember the wage base for both of those is $7,000. And we've got some employees that are here either very close, over, or not going to meet that limit. So I've laid out the information for exercise 7A-3 in this table. On the far left we have a list of employees, Brown, Cheney, and Sampson. And then the next column we have their cumulative earnings, meaning their earnings prior to this paycheck. And then we have their gross pay, of which all of it is subject to Medicare, of course. And then we've got columns for earnings subject to Social Security, and then earnings subject for FUTA and SUTA. So the first thing we want to figure out is what is the total amount of gross wages. So we will add up the 925 plus 575 plus 280. We get 1,780 in total gross pay. So then the next thing we want to do is figure out what are our earnings that are subject to Social Security. So remember the Social Security wage base is 142,800. So let's look at Brown. If we combine his cumulative plus gross pay, that's nowhere near that wage base of 142,800. And same with Cheney and Sampson. Neither of these 3 are at that limit. So we can go ahead and add those columns through here. For a total of 1,780. So now it gets a little bit trickier. We need to calculate the earnings subject to the FUTA and SUTA. So remember in this problem, the wage base for both of those is 7,000 each. So let's take a look at Brown. If you add up his 4,700 plus 925, it is definitely under $7,000. So all of his earnings will be subject to both FUTA and SUTA. And then we can take a look at Cheney here. He is at 6,230. If you add a 575, it will still be under $7,000. So all of his earnings are subject to FUTA and SUTA. And then we can take a look at Sampson. His cumulative earnings prior to this period are over 7,000. So none of his wages will be subject to FUTA and SUTA here. So that is a 0. So if we add those through, 925 plus 575, that is $1,500 that is subject to that amount for FUTA and SUTA. And then we're going to go ahead and bring in the totals from this slide into the next couple here. So we have the taxable amounts from the previous slide that we're bringing in. So for this problem, my accounting lab doesn't care if we lump together Medicare for employees, and then also Social Security as a lump for all three as well, so we can go ahead and calculate that through. So we'll go ahead and multiply those through. So 1780 times the 1.45% for the Medicare will be 2581. And then for the Social Security tax, again, all of the wages are subject to that in this problem, and they will be $110.36 at that 6.2% Social Security rate. And then, as you notice, food and SUTA have been left off here because they need to be calculated individually for this problem for the employees and then added each together to get the total answer for both of those. So we'll go ahead and see that here in the next slide. So we'll go ahead here and calculate the FUTAs and SUTAs separately for each employee, and then we'll add them together here at the end. And not the FUTA and SUTA together, just the FUTAs, and then separately the SUTAs. So we'll go ahead and take Brown's $925, multiply that by the 0.6 FUTA rate that we were given in the problem. Here we go. For $5.55. And then for Cheney's, his 575 will also be multiplied by that 0.6% rate for $3.45. And then for Brown's SUTA tax, we have 925 times 5.7% for $52.73. And then for Cheney's, it's 525 times that 5.7 SUTA rate again for $32.78. And then what we're going to want to do is combine the FUTAs for $9 and combine the SUTAs for $85.51. And that concludes the PowerPoint here. So we're going to skip back over onto my accounting lab. Now we're back in my accounting lab and I've got the solution from the PowerPoint listed over here. So now we can just fill in our numbers. So we're going to have the 2581 for Medicare, the 110.36 for Social Security, $9 even for the FUTA, and then for the SUTA we have that 85.51. And let's go ahead and add those through. For 230.68 total. Then we can go ahead and check our answer. Well done.